C++ flow of control expressions really aren't that complicated, but you can build really complicated applications out of them. The existence of an if, of a loop of some kind, that's common throughout languages. Maybe different languages call them different things, but they all pretty much exist. If you are muddled up a little bit on where do the brace brackets go, how come sometimes I have to have them, sometimes I don't, remember the compiler is your friend. So in the for loop, the three parts are separated with semicolons. If you separate them with something else, you'll get a message saying that some of them are missing. You'll have to sort of interpret that, oh, because I don't have semicolons, it thinks this is all just the initializer, and it's yelling me about the other pieces not being there. Typically, commas is what people do wrong there. Switch your commas to semicolons, and the error message will go away. Same if you leave out your braces or some other part of the syntax of your switch statement. You can build a for loop with a while. You saw that they were pretty much interchangeable. You can build a switch out of a bunch of ifs and elses. You can certainly build an immediate if out of an if and an else. And in fact, especially if you were to drag the dreaded goto into the mix, you could get by without any one of them, replacing them with the others instead. So use them in the way that's most readable and in the way that most C++ developers use them. So for example, if you know how many times you're going to go through a loop, you should use for. It's for int I equals 0, I is less than 10, increment I by 1. That's just a common or garden loop. You can do it with a while, but people would think you were kind of strange. When you don't know how many times you're going to go through in advance because you're processing a whole file or you're keeping going till the user presses 0, use a while. The compiler couldn't care less which you use, but humans who read your code do. Should you use a switch or a bunch of ifs? As soon as there's more than 3 possibilities, or even really 3, go with a switch. If there's just 2, don't make a switch for just 2. That's kind of weird. That's like an if and it's else, right? You don't need that. Should you use an immediate if? Well, the minute your immediate if has to span multiple lines, you're probably doing it wrong, right? The whole point of an immediate if was that it took that 4-line construct and turned it into a 1-line construct. If your conditions and your values that you're setting the variable to are so long that the whole thing has to be broken up with line breaks, it should probably be a regular if. We also talked about functions, about free functions and member functions, taking parameters by value or by reference and returning by value or by reference. The demos I've showed you where all the parameters and return types are things like integers. You know what? Just always do it by value. But there will be times when taking by reference is appropriate, and you've seen the syntax now, that capital 7, that ampersand, after the type, integer reference. You could also have string reference or person reference. We just didn't happen to demo them. Functions are what your application is built of. Functions and classes. Your functions are built out of these flow of control constructs, out of loops, out of conditionals, out of checking to see if something is found or done or good enough or needs special handling. You're almost completely versed in all of the C++ syntax and ready to start putting this all into action.